Ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, this is the Nerd World Order spoiler-free review of Captain Marvel. I am the man they call Dukes, and this is your spoiler-free look into the movie Captain Marvel, the next installment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, as a nerd, there are 4 things that we all look for in order to determine if we like a movie or not. In the Nerd World Order, we look for, hey Leanne, you're first up. Let's see here. We look for the action, we look for the acting, we look for the special effects, and of course, we need a good story. If you put them all together, you can get 1 nerd flag for each one with a possible 4 nerd flags. So this is my review of Captain Marvel. Before I go into my review of Captain Marvel, let me tell you a little bit about my perspective on, my familiarity with the movie, the franchise, everything of that nature. So, familiarity with the character. I'm a huge Marvel Comics fan. That's my nerd fandom. I grew up reading Marvel Comics. Realistically, I missed the Carol Danvers phase of Marvel Comics, which means I'm not a huge Carol Danvers fan. I didn't see the first appearance of Carol Danvers. I haven't seen her run in the Avengers, the current incarnation of the Avengers. So overall, I have to say, I didn't go in having any expectation. I wasn't a Captain Marvel fan. So overall, not really too much excitement for Captain Marvel. Now, of course, as you all know, I'm a huge MCU fan. So I was looking for this installment / prequel of of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So let's get into those 4 nerd flags for your spoiler-free review of Captain America. So the first thing we need to look at is, let's go with the acting. Now, the acting in this movie was good. Brie Larson did a great job of portraying a very strong character. I enjoyed Brie Larson's acting. I'm not a Jude Law fan. Jude Law has never appealed to me as an actor. He did okay as the villain. It's Jude Law. I don't like Jude Law. I don't particularly care for his acting, so take that or leave that. He was just okay. Now, let's talk about Clark Gregg. That would be Agent Coulson, and Mr. Samuel Jackson, Nicholas Fury. Those gentlemen did a phenomenal job. There's a lot of CGI acting, which I'll get into on the special effects side of the house, but those gentlemen delivered 110%. And another surprise were the villains, the Skrulls. The actor that played the primary Skrull was phenomenal. I really enjoyed his portrayal. He was likable. There was empathy for him and what he was doing. So I'm actually going to give 1 nerd flag for the acting in Captain Marvel. Let's look at the action. Now, I'm going to break up the action into 2 parts. We got space action, we got Earth action, we got flying action. So let's just break it up into action that's flying and action on the ground. So overall, let's start with the action that was flying. Now, the action that was flying, let's just call them dogfights, were awesome. They were great. I thoroughly enjoyed the dogfights. Now, they did remind me a little bit of Star Wars The Force Awakens, but that's okay. I still enjoyed it. So, let's say, since we have to go with half and half, 1 half nerd flag for the dogfights. For the space fights, they did a great job there. Now, as far as the fighting between, let's say, Captain Marvel or some of the other characters and the villains, I could take it or leave it. It was just okay. It wasn't the best. I think that Captain Marvel, because she is such a powerful character, her fighting other characters in the movie just sort of seemed almost pointless. But still, the action was pretty good. So in this case, I really wasn't impressed by the fighting in the movie. I wasn't impressed by Captain Marvel's fighting, but I was impressed very much by the space fights, the dog fights, everything of that nature. Half a nerd flag for the action, giving us so far 1.5 nerd flags for Captain Marvel. So let's move on to the next point of the movie, the special effects. Now, the special effects, one part of it, which I wanted to get to a little bit earlier, Greg Clark, along with Samuel Jackson, portraying characters that are technically 24 years younger than these men actually are, is all done through CGI. And it's phenomenal. Now, there are a couple of times where Clark Gregg looks a little bit stiff, a little bit plastic, a little bit mannequin-y, but Samuel Jackson's CGI is phenomenal. Nails it perfectly. They did a great job of taking Samuel Jackson, de-aging him, and having interact with other characters. So I have to say that was phenomenal for that side of the CGI. Now, with every Marvel movie, there's one scene where I'm watching it and I go, dude, that looks hella fake. This movie is no exception. Sometimes Marvel goes a little bit too deep with the CGI, where you have CGI background, you have a CGI character, and it looks like a cartoon / video game. There was clearly that scene in the movie, and it looked horrible. It looked fake. But overall, the special effects, whether it be the transformations of the Skrulls, whether it be the de-aging of Samuel Jackson, whether it be the Captain Marvel using her powers, it looked pretty good. So I'm going to have to give this one additional nerd flag. So far we're up to 2.5 nerd flags for Captain Marvel. Let's look at the last and probably the most important part of this movie, and that's going to be the story. Now, the reason that the story is so important is because everything in the MCU is based on a huge history of writing that fans like myself are very dedicated to, and you can't mess it up. The good thing about this is nobody really cares about Carol Danvers and Captain Marvel when it comes to their story. Granted, she's a great character, but really her story is pretty lackluster, so nobody really cares. Let's talk about the story in the movie. The story in the movie started off really slow, really boring, really cliche. Then it got really good. You're like, whoa, perhaps I was not expecting that. And this is very interesting. And that was the great thing, was that it started off slow. You know, you're going to have to hit your alarm halfway through the movie to wake you up. But then you're going to be like, wow, this is pretty interesting. So the story was pretty good, not great. But then I also have to say that there were other parts in the story where, let me put it this way. Captain Marvel in this movie quickly establishes herself as being very powerful, to the point of being overpowered, which means that all of her fights, things of that nature, are just, everyone's outmatched, in my opinion. And that made the story, let's say at the end, a little bit hard to watch. It was a little bit boring. So overall, I'm going to have to give half a nerd flag to the story. That gives us 3 nerd flags, which is not too bad. So we've got 1 nerd flag for the acting, half a nerd flag for the action, half a nerd flag for the acting, and of course 1 nerd flag for the story. I think I did the math right. It's actually 2.5. 2.5 nerd flags for Captain Marvel. Now, let me digress. This is a phenomenal prequel movie. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. There's a lot of Marvel references. As a movie, like, hey, I want to watch this movie, great Marvel movie, no. It's going to be one of the worst Marvel movies out of the entire list of Marvel movies. It's not going to blow you away. It's not going to make you say, oh man, I better go out and watch that again. That's not going to happen. But from a prequel perspective, from bringing things together, from making you go, oh, that's pretty cool. I like how they did that. Freaking phenomenal. Great prequel movie. And that gives it 3 nerd flags. Just for that. Just because it's a great prequel. So, Captain Marvel, 3 nerd flags. The after credits, the first one was meh. The second one was meh. But at least now you know that there's 2 after credits. There's also a character in the movie that could be important later. Marvel fans will know who that is, because if you think about it, this movie is 25 years in the past, so there's a character that's grown up now, which means she should actually be a badass, because you guys will know which character it is. So, I have to say, overall, should you watch this movie? You're going to watch it anyway. It's a Marvel movie. But should you watch it? Yes. Should you go in with high expectations? No. Will you enjoy it? Yes. I would put it somewhere behind Ant-Man 2, which I didn't particularly care for. I would put it somewhere behind Spider-Man Homecoming, which was a good movie, but not something I had to watch like 2 or 3 times. So, that's my review. 3 nerd flags for Captain Marvel. A good movie, not a great movie, but a phenomenal prequel, and that's why you need to see this movie. because it's a great prequel. So until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, if you love the shirts, and I know you do, IamNWO.com. I am NWO. We are NWO. And until next time, let your nerd flag fly.